Well, I was taught by somebody, believe what a person does. Believe what they're showing you. Don't believe what they say. Look at their actions. Do their actions show that they care, that they support you, that they're empowering you and life and the future generations? I'm going to say D, no.
Well, you spoke several times before about ideological subversion. That is a phrase that I'm afraid some Americans don't fully understand. What do they mean by it?
Ideological subversion is the process which is legitimate, overt, and open. You can see it with your own eyes. All you have to do, all American mass media has to do, is to unplug their bananas from their ears, open up their eyes, and they can see it. What it basically means is to change the perception of reality of every American to such an extent that despite of the abundance of information, no one is able to come to sensible conclusions in the interests of defending themselves, their families, their community, and their country. It's a great brainwashing process which goes very slow, and it's divided in four basic stages. The first one being demoralization. It takes from 15 to 20 years to demoralize a nation. The next stage is destabilization. This time, subverter does not care about your ideas and the patterns of your consumption. Whether you eat junk food and get fat and flabby, it doesn't matter anymore. This time, and it takes only from 2 to 5 years to destabilize a nation, what matters is essentials: economy, foreign relations, defense systems. The next stage, of course, is crisis. It may take only up to 6 weeks to bring a country to the verge of crisis. And after crisis, with a violent change of power, structure, and economy, you have so-called the period of normalization. It may last indefinitely.
Welcome to Call for the Truth. I am LaOta of the Sun, and this is Tavares of the Sun. And today we're going to talk about how we have been culturally subverted, how our morals, our ethics, how our thoughts, how we were raised has shifted and changed over the very recent time, which is in most of our lifetimes. So Tavares, before we start, would you call for the truth?
Most certainly. And we encourage those who are tuning in to join us in the call for the truth. Shall we call forth the frequency of truth to come forward? Shall we call to see the truth in all that we see? Shall we call to hear the truth in all that we hear? Shall we call to speak the truth, calling forth the courage to speak the truth? Shall we call forth nothing less than the truth to come forward into our experience? Now that we are here in the truth.
Yes, and we're going to see everything through the eyes of the truth. That's right.
So again, we're talking about this idea of ideological subversion,
Yes,
and its wide-reaching influence and effects. So we came across this term, which ideological subversion is a form of psychological warfare that's imposed upon society and its citizens to change its perspective, primarily perspective towards the governing power, authority, different forms of tradition. It impacts relative moralism, things of that nature. And it was first introduced from more of a political standpoint. However, we see that this is so much more than political, because we can see the ideological subversion in every facet of the human experience.
absolutely. It's the most prevalent, I think, in the fact that we're in such denial. The Western world, the U.S., we're in such denial of what is actually taking place, what's actually happening. Do we actually believe what the facts would show to be so, or is everything fake news? And fake news is part of it.
All right. It's just interesting confluence. And I think from what I have observed, there's a mixture. There's people who have the receipts and they're happy that they have the receipts because they've always had this inkling something's off
Yes.
and not right about these people who want us to make sure our credit's perfect, but they're irresponsible and they can't manage money. But it goes even deeper than that. But there's also groups of people who are like, nah, they wouldn't do that. And you actually spoke about this in previous podcasts, the Stockholm syndrome that we have, where we have had hundreds of years of abuse. It doesn't matter what race you are, where we've been subjected to abuse, but we're like, nah, that's not what's happening.
Or we're actually active participants in the abuse that is pressed upon us. We start to embrace it. We start to, we were talking earlier how we're poor, and then we start embracing poor, and then we start doing things that make our poorness more grand instead of looking for the richness in life or the wealth that the experience of living should have given us. So there is this sense that humanity does that in our creativity.
Yes. And as you're saying this, my mind is kind of seeing its correspondence on all the levels, because
Yes.
we were given political examples, but this applies to our everyday relationships.
Absolutely.
The abuse we deal with.
Normalize. When we normalize it, and then we look for it, and then we start to behave like it. Then we do what was done to us, to our children, or to our lovers, or to our family members, or to the school if we're a teacher.
Or to even nature, other forms of life.
Absolutely. So this idea of the ideology, or the ideas and the cultural framework in which morals and ethics are grown, wholesomeness and correctness is supported, has been deconstructed. And we are, as a Western society, as the United States, as the all of those who are here in the West, who have certain honed in or grandfathered in principles, are no longer able to see those. We're no longer able to see it in our children or our grandchildren. How many people are living in their mother's basement eating pizza and never coming off the computer? How many people have stopped interacting with other people completely because they are cognitively captured by the computers? How many people are eating processed food? How much of the experience of nature is being had? These are all long-term things that we knew. We knew that the children should go outside and it was okay for them to be barefoot because they would be grounded.
Yes.
We knew that cooking from scratch was a good idea, because then the food has, from how many times have you heard, from farm to table? We know that. It's in our lexicon.
But somehow these natural living ideologies have been subverted.
Yes.
Don't go outside without your shoes.
Yes. And be afraid of being outside, and be afraid of being inside. Wear a mask inside and outside, even though we know that that doesn't make sense. All of these things. So we're really speaking about this deconstruction of the truths of humanity that have kept us alive, and then listening to the different edicts that are, and laws and rules that are being put into society to see if they support us. And are we just going along assuming that they used to support us, so they still support us?
Well, I was taught by somebody, believe what a person does. Believe what they're showing you. Don't believe what they say. Look at their actions. Do their actions show that they care, that they support you, that they're empowering you and life and the future generations? I'm going to say D, no.
So we are living in a time where so many things are not in support of humanity in general, at large, including how we are nourished. I just read a headline yesterday that said that birth rates were plummeting all over the world. And there's a million reasons why that's happening. We could go over many of them, but it has already happened in some countries where now they don't have suitable couples. They can't make couples to make children.
You know, I've seen something
Yes.
on the TikTok where Japan is asking for America to send black males to impregnate the Japanese women
I
for this
didn't know
very
that.
reason. It was a thing apparently. Like Japanese women making videos and like press release from governing bodies like, look, come over here and help us repopulate.
Part of that is the sperm count. So the sperm count the black male maybe is scientifically the one who has the highest sperm count still on the planet
Yeah.
at this moment.
Even though that might not even be that high, but
I was just
considering
gonna
context.
say, depending on how much pizza they ate,
Yeah.
or how much radiation, or
And
all the other
releasing.
things that are going on. But it's the birth controls and the water supply.
Yes.
It's all the different things that are happening there. It's an entire discussion that I'm really not looking
Yeah.
to open, but the end result of it is that we are no longer able to reproduce ourselves. And it has been difficult for the last 30 years for people to reproduce themselves because of the habits and the behaviors of our society, which we have been subverted from. The things that would have kept us healthy, that would have kept us able to be strong and healthy. Now those things have already taken place, and the birth rates in America, and with the recent pandemics and the recent variety of medications, all of the different things that have happened have only added to the fact that we can't reproduce ourselves. And then there's this push, a clear effort from those in authority to move others into our experience. So we're getting an influx of people from other parts of the world, but we haven't yet developed the infrastructure. We didn't take the time to be able to properly receive them.
Mm-hmm.
So this is not an argument against immigrants. This is an argument for order instead of anarchy. How do we best take care of ourselves so that we can better take care of humanity? Wouldn't we all want to be the person who, we see a person who's naked and we give them clothes? We see a person who's hungry, we give them food. If we see a person who's getting frostbite on their hands and feet, can't we let them in the buses that have been hired for the immigrants?
That sounds humane. That sounds like a very human gesture.
And so these are the kind of, how does a man who's keeping people warm, who has room, say, oh no, this is not for Americans, this warmth, this is only for those who are coming here from somewhere else. Mm-hmm. So this is not an argument against anything. This is an argument for order, for law, for high moral value, for humanity. So that's what I would say, with the many things doing, can we use the measuring stick of this? Is this humane? Is it humane to do to me, to force me to do what you want me to do because you want me to do it, because it then somehow benefits you?
No, however, there's been a normalization of it, which this is bringing my mind to the different 4 stages of the ideological subversion. May I share that?
Yes.
Before we shift gears to go deeper?
Yeah.
Hope you all got your snorkeling gear, because we're about to go into the deep end. But before we do, 4 stages. First stage is demoralization.
And let's see, has that happened? We should take a poll.
Yeah.
Do we have anybody in our audience who has been demoralized in any way? So there's hands up in the audience.
I've seen it. I see it, yes.
Demoralization through every possible means. Through work, through education, through religion, through government pressures, through work, through the masculine to the feminine, from the feminine to the masculine, to the children. demoralization.
Yes.
I would say that's a 100%. Do you have another?
Yeah, stage 2 would be destabilization.
Destabilization. That would be like bridges falling down.
Yeah, economic structural collapse.
Money not being worth anything.
Yeah, family values and
Destabilization.
households.
Would that mean increases in prices, inflation,
Mm-hmm.
fear of market prices, and stores closing down because laws have been in effect that people can just steal with no consequences?
Yeah.
Is that destabilization?
Definitely.
When 1,000 Walmarts close and 1,000 Targets close, and now Applebee's is closed, and many other Red Lobster is now closed.
By the way, we don't condone any of these restaurants, for the record, just letting y'all know, especially that Red Lobster. Avoid that lobby. It's funky in there.
The idea being that the destabilization is systemic. We are destabilized in what we expect from those who represent us.
Mm-hmm.
What do we expect? How do we expect them to behave? What level of high language do we expect them to operate at? What frequency? Has all of that been destabilized? Do we see every representative speaking at a level that's below what we would expect to hear from someone who's pointing the way to us or showing our children?
Certainly.
And what happens to the destabilization to the teachers? So I am aware that in schools now that children are on their cell phones in the classroom doing whatever they want to do, and that when a teacher comes in, that half the children are watching porn or showing it to each other, the other half are playing games, and that there's no support for someone to get 30 students who have been hijacked cognitively by the phones, and there's no systematic plan to take the phones out of school. They're like, no, you come to school, you don't bring a phone. I mean, how complicated is that?
Well, but then again, it makes us see that there has to be a greater plan in order for all of these things to occur. From the love, I was making some notes this morning about a young man I mentor, and to bring to his awareness, like, you're addicted. This is a drug. If you cannot remove yourself from the app, the social media, the gaming, you are addicted. And matter of fact, these things are programmed to be addictive. Roundtable discussions.
We have enough solid evidence that our schools are producing serial killers. We have enough evidence to know it has happened enough times. Enough people have been killed that we can see that whatever is taking place in those environments, whatever is happening between the established schools that did not happen 25 years ago and before that, is happening all over the world now. It's happening in Europe, and it's happening also here, but it's happening more here. Be-Bration. We are a universal remedy of support, an ally infused with positive frequencies and biophotonic light particles intended to return one to the greater whole of one's organic nature. Within our layered structure exists an opportunity for metamorphosis, prompting divine healing energies of light to awaken your original composition, that which has been irritated by inorganic substances through mental, emotional, and physical material. We are navigators, those who operate by way of your conscious thought and directive, exponentially moving to the physical areas of stuck emotion within the body that are in need of restoration. When engaged with us, we identify and mirror the called upon frequencies of lower vibratory notion for it to see itself in transmutation, while awakening that which is dormant to shift into the rectification of optimum balance and functionality. So all of this is the destabilization. So I think we hit that.
Oh, very vastly.
I mean, we could
indeed.
go on and on, and the destabilization continues, but you had another one?
I have two more. Stage
Okay.
3 is crisis.
So are we in a crisis? Is a crisis when you get locked down and you have to stay home?
I think we are in many crises.
When
Even
you
our
can't go to school and you must be a villain, you must look like a villain. You have to have a mask. Well, people can only see your eyes. Yes. You have to breathe in the waste that your body is trying to get rid of and exhale. You know, in medical schools, they teach people that the masks are only good for about 20 minutes before they become counterproductive.
Yes.
Because then you're breathing in what the body needs to exhale and get rid of.
Mm-hmm.
So all of these things are part of that. And of course, there's more we can go on.
Yeah, there's so many more. I'll just throw two more out there. I was thinking about during those moments that you mentioned, there was a crisis regarding infant milk.
Yeah.
A crisis regarding toilet paper or toilet tissue.
Yes.
There's crisis regarding gasoline and its availability, and then of course the type of experiences of gun violence, etc. And crisis, and
Yes.
even international affairs that we're seeing, which we don't have to go into.
Yeah, this is the world is full of this, and this falls under the heading of the ideological subversion, which we are fully in. It is not about it's not about a party, a political party. It's not about who is ruling. It's about the people of America and the people in Western countries who are losing their footing because we are hanging on to an idea that we have not really supported, that we assume is still taking care, that we're the greatest country in the world, the West is the first world countries, that there are certain privileges as relates to that, and one of them is free speech. And we should talk to the people in Canada, we can talk to the people in Australia, we can talk to the people in the Netherlands about free speech and the farmers. So all over the world, and we're not getting the information in the news internationally. Yeah, so it's hard for us to see that there are people revolting and burning cars in the street because they're not being heard in Paris or in the Netherlands or in Germany, which they all are.
Yeah, a camera lady mentioned that it's as if America is living in its own bubble. And I think there's this term echo chamber where we only hear what's reinforced, and we regurgitate the same news and information, and it's nothing outside of the narrative that they're looking to have us believe.
Absolutely, and it really brings me to the point of maybe we need to detox. Maybe we need to turn off the news. Maybe we need to stop going to work and stop going to our classes. Maybe we need a short vacation. Maybe we need a week away from everything that informs us that is not in our best interests.
I'm so in agreement. I think that will do wonders. We adopt that understanding or apply that understanding when it comes to food and health. Yes. We start abstaining from different types of things that don't promote life or make us alkaline and contribute to parasites and things of that nature. But when we abstain, we can think clearer. Yeah. We begin to see and decode more of what's in our reality that's always been there, but because of the lower state and the constant broadcasting of whatever they're doing, we have been unable to see such.
I am an advocate of rational fasting, and there are many world religions who consistently fast and many religions who touch on it, but I'm an advocate of rationally fasting from our experience. I'm not speaking specifically to food, but what if you decided to fast from the burdens, from the pain points, from the suffering? What if the thoughts of wearing something around your neck that reminded you of suffering, maybe you fast from that for a while. You fast from talking to people on the phone who are trying to force you to do things. Maybe you fast from opening up the mailbox.
Yes.
Maybe you fast from your email. You fast from your social media. Why not go sit on the ground and see if you can bring back your contact to your mother, to the Mother Earth? I am a strong advocate of rational fasting. What happens when you fast is something that's quite amazing. When you don't eat, the things that are not good for you, the cells that are broken, the things that are not operating correctly, present themselves to the body so that it may have that first when there's no food available, so that it doesn't take from its stores of vital nutrients.
Yes.
It presents what is not growing properly, what cells and atoms and molecules are that are moving in the wrong direction. And then the body gets to consume that, and then it's time then to eat after that. So you've already consumed the poison or the thing when it was small enough where it didn't damage you. When you don't fast, those things grow and multiply out of control, and then they become things that are bigger because you haven't done the daily cleaning of the rational fasting.
Yes.
I think we should consider rational fasting this world, that we should take a step back, make some space between that so that we can then see what arises that's not correct. What am I feeling? What am I hearing? Am I hearing something 5G? Is there something coming into my house because I'm fasting now? Am I aware of it? Let me unplug that. Let me take that apart. Let me not drink that. Maybe I don't need to listen to that. Is this music making me sad and depressed? What?
Yeah.
I think we need to consider turning rational fasting into rational fasting our lifestyles. And then, of course, your diet if you want to as well, because it works. It cleans up things before they get too big. It's a complete system from the intelligence of the technology that we call our body that keeps us appropriate. So even in the wild, when we look at nature, most of nature, it may be that, cows graze all day long, but lions might not eat but every other day or every third day. And they are quite magnificent and quite beautiful. And they live healthy lives because the rhythm of the experience of going to get the food, to finding the food, going to get the food, going back to getting the rest of the lion pack to come back and go eat the food, filling yourself up with the food, then walking slowly back and getting your rest. And they're living in a rhythm of what is natural for them. And we don't need to eat 3 meals a day. We don't need to eat the 3 movies or the 3 news shows a day from the morning and then in the evening and then before bed that keep informing us and keep us in that space of still not knowing or being distracted by something else. We get off and we still haven't heard anything but one name, Biden or Trump. That's all we hear. And that's all we've heard for years.
Yeah.
Like there is no other story.
Yeah, by design.
There is no other story.
More.
So surely you can fast from that because I know what you're going to hear tomorrow is what you heard yesterday.
And aren't you tired of hearing the same thing? It's boring.
And didn't you hear that all during the pandemic? And didn't you hear it, isn't it always the same story?
Mm-hmm.
So fast from that.
So I'd like to make a comment and then get to the last stage. When you were describing the fast and the process of the body's processes and what happens as we do it in our perception of reality, I could see literally the weight. Just it corresponds. The physical experience corresponds emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and I could see the energetic accumulation of the weight from the outside influence just dropping.
Yes.
We lose the emotional, the mental, the spiritual weight. And we become literally lighter.
It might take 3 days. I'd recommend 5 to 7. It might take 3 days.
Biblical. Get biblical on it. It works.
It might take time for you to detach from what you used to, but go out, get your groceries, get your supplies, fill up your car, get whatever you're going to need, and then go in and experience what it's like without all of the interference in the house, what it's like to sleep or be in the house without a radio on and without a television
Yes.
on, without music in your ear, without hearing somebody else's and the neighbors. Sit on the grass, have a picnic, you know, lay outside in the sun, be informed, breathe air deeply. See if after 3 or 4 days you don't feel different. This is what's being recommended because much of what we're getting is right in front of us. Everybody is telling us every single thing they're about to do. There's about to be another pandemic. We're about to take all your money out of your bank account. We're about to make you do something else. Immigrants are here. You know, things are going to happen. So they're telling us because we must agree by our silence. Rational fasting may be a good start for some of you.
So our last stage for ideological subversion is normalization.
Yes.
Normalization of all the things. Would you
Yes.
expound, please?
Yes, we have normalized to our poor health. How many times have you looked outside and saw people in motor wheelchairs? Or how many people do you know who, because of the processed food, are no longer able to lift their bodies? How normal has it become that this is a mainstay in our culture, that children are obese, that they're all on medication? How normal is it that all the children get, oh, he's moving too much, he's talking too much, he's got to be on, have you taken your meds today? Now, how normal is it that if you go out for breakfast, you have to have a Bloody Mary? You got to have, you know, Bakken orange juice with your eggs. You know, that, you know, it has moved up a bit.
It's what's in my mind is this term of hypernormalcy. I was last night listening to a snippet of there's some young man who's conscious oriented into food and health, and he was being interviewed by a very prominent mogul, and he was attempting to show an alternative to diabetes, how melanated people get diabetes. And the mogul was saying, oh, if I have to do all of this, then I'm sticking with getting my insulin shots because I can't stop eating what I'm eating. You know, it's a normalization of
Yes.
I can't change. I'm unwilling to change.
And unwilling to, the normalization that I'm not willing to fight for my life.
Yes.
So what must happen, and what this idea of rationally fasting your experience, like, let me look, what is my experience? I'm waking up in the morning. Let me fast what is not in my best interest.
That's right.
We all know what's not in our best interest.
We be knowing.
We all know what foods, you know, we should not be eating. That chicken and waffles and Bloody Mary may not be the most healthy experience for us. We already know this. And even if you tell yourself that, you know, 2 pieces of pie and a shot of whiskey is a good idea.
That sounded like that was pulled back from a memory. You seen somebody doing that? Oh, real.
So we already know it's not in our best interest to have sex with everyone and willy-nilly have babies and then abort them. We all know these things all have physical, mental, and spiritual consequences. But we have moved towards convenience. It is the convenience and the comfort of knowing I can get a shot. But the shot is not a given.
Mm-mm.
If the supply chain drops,
it's going to be you and your diabetes.
and your insulin is not available, your pancreas is still going to be doing the same thing.
Yes.
So this is so short-sighted. So why not move yourself into, like, I'm going to rationally fast from the things that are killing me. And see if I can live another day.
Well, but then
Think
that
a new
means
thought.
the person would have to want to choose life, not anti-life.
Well, in the third dimensional experience, it's required you fight your way down the birth canal, and then you get ready to get up and run. Because that's the experience in the third dimension. You fight for life, or you don't get it to keep it. You had an experience recently with birds that were nesting outside your door.
Yes.
And the birds, I'll tell a little bit of the story, but I'd like you to finish it. So the birds grew big enough to jump out of the nest. And you thought they fell out of the nest. So you picked them up and put them back in the nest, and then they jumped out again.
They certainly did. And I was like, look, I thought I was just coming to water the plants. I'm about to start a podcast. I can't be chasing around after you all.
And because we are of the sun and we speak to everything, you spoke with the mother bird who was nearby.
So the mother bird frequents and she hangs out. The nest is still there, which she has placed more eggs for hatchlings. And she was sharing with me, I want to thank you for extending your generosity. However, I'll paraphrase what she was sharing. The idea of how humans don't understand, nor do they have the appropriate reverence for the natural processes of life, and that all life must fight for its own survival. Like, it was weird because she pointed out how we overlay these human morals, which they're not in harmony with universal laws and principles. This is stuff we've made up in the absence of universal laws and principles, which the animals are instinctually in tune with. Those baby birds were too big for the nest. They were like, I'm trying to get out of here. This guy, what's wrong with this human? We like him, but he don't get us. It's time. And that really taught me something. That taught me, it was understanding and lessons on so many levels of respecting people's process, respect their free will, allow people to go through their experience, cheer them on, but don't try to do it for them.
Yes, and don't put them back in a too small nest with too many baby birds.
Over here trying to place limitation on their experience. What was wrong with me? I had to let that go.
This is a wonderful thing to share on the podcast because this tells us really everything we need to know about ourselves. That we are the responsible party. Every pot sits on its own bottom. There is no death. There's only a change. So the birds, they are growing that muscle to know how to be alive, how to live an alive life. Maybe they'll make it in this turn or maybe they won't. But there is no death, so there's no problem.
That's right.
All world religions teach you there's a hereafter or an afterlife. Hereafter doesn't mean somewhere else later. Hereafter means after you think you die. So there is a real lesson in this that we don't have to rush out of here with our medical emergencies. We could choose life and choose to eat what will support us, choose to make sure that we live the life that best supports us. We encourage you to do rational fasting with your life, with what you listen to, what you hear, what you speak, what comes out of your mouth. Say only what you would like to see happen. Don't cuss everyone out because you cuss yourself out. I'd like to give you these cards to pull. And this would help us with identifying a spiritual law or principle that speaks to the idea of what we're talking about today.
Most certainly.
So if you will shuffle and pull the card.
Right, so
These are the call for truth cards. They are layered with color, with Platonic solids, which are large concepts of creation, numbers, and they each have a statement that's highly vibrational, that can be applied to whatever situation. And today's card is
belief. You will see what you believe. And I think this is so important because funny enough, our guidance has been sharing with us to begin to imagine, use our imagination to create the reality that we want. Again, the topic of ideological subversion is our ideologies are influencing how we interface with our imagination.
Yes.
You know, so we're reinforming the field based off of what someone else has impressed
Absolutely.
into us. So we have to realize, like I shared with some folks, I said, is all that we can see in the future the Terminator movie plot with AI, or is there other potentialities that we can experience where, yes, AI is here, but where, as you mentioned, very frequent, you know, if we program it with the right minds, with integrity and values for life, it can be a completely different experience. So,
Well, thank you. And the card reads, "You will see what you believe." So are we seeing what we believe? And are we believing whatever is being shown to us? And are we being shown just a very sliver of the reality that exists around us? Rational fasting. It may be time to just stop consuming that which does not support you. Thank you. We hope to see you soon. We would like to bid you farewell by saying, in Lakesh and Veritas, with honor, respect, and gratitude.